Hello and welcome to Fix My Fees podcast. I'm your host, Tavious Washington. And here we on Fix My Fees podcast, we bring on interesting guests because in the merchant service world, it's just not a lot to talk about. So we bring on people like Dan Austin, who's with us today. He's our guest. He's been in this field for 30 plus years, building successful businesses in different organizations from fintech to finance to future tech, consumer, e-commerce, payment processing, right? When you talk about 30 years, there's so many different things you probably didn't even get a chance to touch on. And one thing that I could say from just I think we talked for maybe 15, 20 minutes before, is that he is a man of value. Very, very short time together, and he provided me with so much value that I could implement for myself, let alone in that short conversation. So I'm excited to jump on here with you today, Dan. How are you doing today?
Excellent. Thank you, Tavious. What an opportunity to spend some time with the people that pay attention to your podcast and just provide value to them. If I can in any way, share some of the knowledge or some of the things I've stubbed my toe on over the last 30 years. Sometimes I think people can learn best from people's mistakes, but also we've had some success. So looking forward to sharing today and excited for you. I think that you're doing a great job over there at Fix My Fees. I think the podcast you put together is a great way of providing value to clients and people that you want to serve. So congratulations. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's something you've always been kind of accustomed to with your jobs leading into this, or did you somehow just kind of fall into it?
You know what? I started off literally as a very much a direct sales kind of environment early in my career. And I was very, very fortunate to have some great mentors very early on in my career that took a liking to me, saw some talent early in my life in my mid-20s. And I was grateful for that teaching and just sort of always hung on to the wisdom and the knowledge that they delivered to me and carried that forward into roles. And fortunately, one thing that I did early in my career, and actually, I'd say like through most of my career, I always put myself in situations where I was outside my comfort zone. And, I was elevated myself into a role that like I really didn't have any business being there, but I knew that I was smart enough. I had some great mentors that taught me if you always reach for something just a little bit higher than you are, you'd be amazed at how you will rise to the occasion of that position. And so
Mhm.
I've always just had that mindset, something that I've taken forward with me until today.
Got it. And like I said, when I was talking in the beginning, like the value, like even in just conversation, it does seem like you try to bring value in every person where you just come in contact with, no matter what. Is that something you developed over time? I know for me, I like helping people, but your concept is like with every person every time. And that seems like cool. Like, has that always been a part of your personality, or did that something like you just grew into?
I think like you, Tavius, there's you're sort of born with an idea that, for me, I always grew up wanting to lead people and help people, but it was never really actionable for me. It was just a feeling I had until
Mhm.
I had an opportunity to work with some very senior executives at some very big businesses, in a public group of companies. The Home Depot, I spent some time there with the founder and with leadership there. And I learned along the way that if you want to do good for people, that's one thing. But when you translate into, okay, if you could be present, just have the presence of mind in every interaction you're working with to take the other person's goals, achievements, whatever it is that they're looking to do, or whatever it is that you're looking to provide them, if you're
Mhm.
benefiting them first, it will come back to you in a benefit far greater and over a longer period of time. And so if you stack that up over and over and over again, and you take every conversation seriously in the idea that what is it that I'm going to contribute in this conversation or in this sales process or in this business meeting or in this marriage or being a father, whatever, if you're constantly giving first, and I don't mean like giving as an overgive where you end up, like giving something to somebody they didn't deserve or they hadn't earned yet. But if
Right.
you give something to somebody and you provide value to them, you will be amazed at what value comes back to you.
Right. Yeah, you guys can kind of tell from me if y'all see even some of my podcasts pre-Dan versus post-Dan, there's a little bit of a difference in what you'll see in how I communicate because I do realize I jump in quick. And when Dan said that, I went back and I listened to a lot of my stuff and I'm like, wow, Not only did it happen literally 5 seconds after he told me, it happened again, like in calls after, and I completely changed. I listened to it, I listened for it, and it's something I'm still working on. But the fact that I can feel the significant difference, and I've seen it already, and it's been what, a couple of weeks, right? It's like that is really huge there. But so now that you've gone from the beginning till now, what is your normal day to day like? What are you
Hmm.
usually doing?
So I spend a lot of time leading people. I've got a few businesses that I am a partner in and own and operate. So we have a digital marketing company. We're in the lead gen space in four categories in the business and personal debt consolidation or debt settlement space. We're in that space. We're in the Social Security disability insurance benefits space. We're in the veterans benefits space, in the tort and class action space. We're also in the mortgage refi and business to business lending space. That's one business. And we have, in 60 employees there that we lead. And then I have a financial platform business where we do a lot of financial trading. And again, you got a plethora of people over there. So and then I occupy some board seats and some investment opportunities. So the bulk of my day is just talking to people and helping to lead these organizations to not only look at their goals, look at their mindsets, take a look
Mhm.
at how they're operating from an energetic perspective, and
Mm.
thinking about how do we benefit not only our customers the most, because in the end, business benefits greatly when whoever you're serving, whatever marketplace or industry you're serving benefits greatly from what you do, your business benefits. And so
Right.
I spend a lot of time that I'm like the cultures are in most of my businesses.
Got it. You mentioned like in the beginning, you were talking about like you manage people, and we get so many times where people are building and they're scaling and they want so much control of everything because nobody can do it better than me, and I don't know,
Yeah.
and change and letting go. What do you say to that person, right? When you're, obviously it's taking some time, but you've gotten to the point where you're helping run multiple teams and multiple organizations, and you've become the leader of people. What do you say to that person who just like letting go of that first thing, or even if they have a couple employees, but they're still wearing a majority of the hat?
Great question. This will be controversial.
Oh,
There's going to be some people that are like, "What?" And then but if you hear me out long enough, you'll get where I'm going. So, number one, if you are in a leadership position, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're a small business, whether you're a large business, whether you are the founder of a company or you are a management of a division, if you are battling the idea that no one can do it better than me, so I'm sure you've heard this before, like, if I want to get it done, I got to do it myself. Now,
mm-hmm.
those types of scenarios, and this is why I'm going to say it's controversial. The first thing I would say with somebody who has that going on, you got to work on yourself first. Because if you feel like there's no one else in the world that can do it, if not you, then you've got to get past that. So you got to work on yourself. So personal growth there is probably really important. And oh, by the way, if that's the way you feel, I promise you, if you have people that are in a team that you work with, or you have an organization that you're the leader of and you feel like that, they feel it too. And so what you're doing is you're stifling their growth and you're stifling your own growth. So walk off the big ivory tower for a sec, get real with yourself that I need to really pay attention to. Why is it? What is it about me that feels like it won't get done without me doing it? That is a massive hindrance to your explosive growth. Now, the next thing I would say about that is hiring great people around you that have the thirst to grow, and not only spiritually, but also professionally, that want to, grow. You got to start instilling things in your business. Things like this. If you want more, you got to be more. Tavious, we talked about this last time.
Mm-hmm.
Notice I didn't say you got to do more. If you want more as a leader, if you want your people to want more as a leader, the thing you got to teach them is they all have to want to be more. And what do I mean by be more? Spend time reading, spend time seeking mentorship, lead by example, work with people, not work at them. They don't work for you. They work with you, right? We don't manage people. What we do is we manage process and we work with people. But if you back
Oh,
that through, that's managing process. We work with people. If you back that all the way through, your people will end up feeling like you're working with them and you're just solving problems with them. So we'll manage process maniacally. So I will micromanage process, but I'm not going to micromanage the people in the process. I'm going to manage
mm.
with them. And I think that when you start encompassing all those, we can unpack this for hours. If you start If you start encompassing some of this as a leader in your business or a manager of an organization, you start paying very close attention to what I just talked about, like really pay attention to that. What you're going to find is you're going to attract better talent, because a part of wanting more, you got to be more, is if you start practicing things like this, you're going to show up differently to somebody you're interviewing. And remember,
Right.
this is something that I think a lot of people miss. And an interview is a two-way conversation. It's not just a one-way conversation. Yes, does that employee or does that person want a job with your organization? Of course they do. That's why they
Yeah.
applied. Do you want them to join your organization? Of course you do. Or you want the best possible candidate to join your organization. Thing is, you got to remember that you're interviewing them, but they're also interviewing you.
Hmm.
So when you show up as a more whole person, as somebody who wants to lead by example, somebody who is going to manage process, work with people, that will
Right.
come through, and your interviewee is going to see that. So I spent an awful lot of time on that one particular subject, like how do you scale? How do you grow? How do you get off? But if I have to do it, it's all up to me. You got to have a great group of people around you. If you don't have a great group of people around you, you're going to be stuck in a solopreneur hobby business.
Yeah. We hear it a lot, right? When it's like, oh, you got to delegate or you can't scale. You're going to put too much pressure on yourself. But I don't think I've heard of that. And I didn't think of it until you said it, but it makes sense that if you're feeling that way and you do have employees, they're going to feel that way too, which means that they're always coming to you because it has to be perfect because you're the only one that can do it right. They can't even do it right.
I'll give you a scenario about that. Just to add to that. So one thing that we practice in all of our businesses is sometimes I won't answer someone purposely. And I'll tell them, I'm not answering you purposely. Pretend I'm not here. They come to me with an issue to solve in the business. What
Hmm.
I want everyone to start thinking is, what would Dan do in this situation? What would he
Hmm.
say to me? If you just have your people ask that question first before they come to you with a problem, 9 times out of 10, they're going to solve it just the way you would solve it. Now, if it's a bigger issue that
Right.
requires a little bit more thought or thinking through, what I tell people is, listen, if you come to me with a major issue, it's fine. Love that. Come on in. If you made a mistake, love that. Let's fix it together. But what I want you to do is walk in with 3 examples of how you think we should solve it. And it's very specific.
Um,
It's not because it's not because I want them to solve the problem. Of course I do, but I want to start training their thought process to think about things differently. Like, how would I solve? I want them to think as if they were the leader, think as if they were the business owner, because that'll inherently over time, like if you stack up 10 problems over a 90-day period,
mhm.
and those 10 problems, they've thought through 3 solutions to those 10 problems. That's 30 solutions to 10 problems that
Right.
they thought through in a 90-day period. Stack that 4 times a year. That's 120 problems that they've solved through thinking a process through. Invariably, they're going to become better at what they do.
Right. And so in the beginning, it may feel like, because they're coming with you 3 solutions. So in the beginning, it may feel like, man, I'm being micro. But after a certain amount of time, they're going to start getting it right because they come to you and you're like, yeah, do that. Right. And then they build that confidence in themselves to just go do it and get it done. I definitely see how that can work. And then going back to with the interviews, like even when you're hiring on people, if you're like, hey, I'm looking for the best so that I can build the best, you're also hiring better talent than I'm the only one that can do it, but I do need a body to fill in the gaps. You can feel that difference too. Talent, those are the talent that you're just getting money. I'm just here for a paycheck. Whether your business grows or not my big deal. I just want a paycheck type of people. That's what it feels like. So since you're managing so many different businesses, I know we talked about this a little bit. Are you leveraging AI in any way in all of those? 'Cause I know this is like a big deal. And with what you're doing, with so many pools, are you invested in AI? Are you kind of like
Mhm.
not worried about it? How are your feelings on that?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, the way that we're leveraging AI across all of our businesses is whatever AI we can leverage, whether it's a Claude bot, whether it is some wholly grown, AI that we built ourselves. It's all about how do we make processes or data consumption and data analysis more efficient. I think there will come a day when there are certain jobs that are just going to be run by artificial intelligence, and we're embracing that. We like to think that here's something I heard from Elon Musk, and I think it's a great way of looking at things. If you move an atom, you're probably the last job that AI is going to take over. If you produce a digital file, you're probably the first that AI is going to take over. Right.
Right.
So we look at that, and when I looked at that, I went, okay, interesting. what part of my business can we leverage something that produces a digital file or digital format? And that's what we're leveraging AI for. Now, what do I do in the interim with the rest? I pour all the energy we have into those different positions that are human facing, human to human, that are customer service facing, so that we can always benefit from the growth factor that AI will give us, the speed factor that AI will give us, but never, ever, ever lose that human touch or that service to the markets we serve.
Got it. Okay.
Which
So
I
are
believe
you
is still going to, I believe it's still going to require people to do those.
right? Right. And that's why you have like people on both sides, right? You have some people who are like, I'm going to build a 3-person mega, $1 billion company. And then you have the other side with people who are like, I'm not touching AI. It's going to ruin my business. So, you got to kind of find that happy medium. If somebody was just starting out and they're like, I don't want to, and you have to get into it at some point, but they're like, I'm just like, holding on before I have to make the transition into AI, what would be some starting places or some tips you would give to someone who's like holding on to the old ways, but they need to embrace the change?
So get comfortable with the idea of what AI can present to your business. I think we're inherently humans are generally fearful of change and the unknown. But
Mm,
what if the unknown is actually going to create a better society and a better environment for your business to scale? So in other words, let's say I went to you and I said, listen, if you use artificial intelligence as a front end piece to call centers,
mm,
just to help the customers get better prepared for the other person they're going to transfer you to, which is more of a person that's an onboarder, right? Or somebody that's going to be the salesperson. And what if and the thing about AI that's interesting in situations like that, if you're doing an appointment setting situation where you're then going to get someone to actually come in and do a pitch, well, my concurrent discussions that I can have with AI is so much more expansive than I
mm,
would have with a finite amount of call reps. Well, if I could spend the money, let's say I'm spending $10,000 a month on call reps. If I have $10,000 a month of people that are really good at onboarding people or selling them, helping them buy your product, and I
right.
have an infinite amount of people setting appointments for those people, my efficiency on every dollar is way more effective. So sometimes looking at artificial intelligence with the people that are just a little bit more hesitant or haven't quite gotten there yet with their comfortability on embracing it, if you unpack what it can do for you, you know, just a little bit, you start to get more comfortable with, oh, wait a minute, I can make 10 times the amount of money if I did that, or I could service 15 times more people if I did it that way, right? So I would look at that. I think that, get to know Claude, get to know ChatGPT. Don't just use it as a search engine. That's what 99% of the people do that
Yeah.
are my age, right? They no longer Google, I'm going to use ChatGPT. No, that's not the way to do it. Sure, it's fine to get information that way, but start, just look online for some courses. You can ask ChatGPT or Claude the same thing. How can I become an expert at building efficiencies and process in my business? Ask it that kind of question. Send me the roadmap in my particular company. So I own a company XYZ and ABCD industry. This is what I'm looking to do. This is a problem I'm looking to solve. Please send me back how I would go about solving that, leveraging AI to the best. You'd be amazed at
Mm,
what comes back. It's remarkable.
right. Right. And I like how you're saying that, like, there's still people involved, right? You still
Yeah.
have people involved because people still have to earn the data, the assets, and give the orders to the AI. But the AI, like you said, infinite people can run to appointment setters. They can get better and better, get more and clear, higher quality, and things like that as you're going along. But you still need those people in certain places to make that run. And I want to talk about that because a lot of what we talked about from the beginning on people getting better, businesses, whether it's delegation, AI, all of that, a lot of that has to do with your person, right? You're like real tuned into like you as a person changing in order for things to get better. I want to make sure that, as people are starting to go on, they understand how they can do that. What if someone's like right now, they're like, you know what? I do need to become better, Dan. And I'm trying to do that, but I kind of start things and don't finish them because I get bogged down with business and life. How does someone, whether it's AI or outside of AI, how can someone start to make the steps internally to become that better person?
That's a broad question. Let me answer it this way. First, it comes from a desire to have something more. If you have the general desire, like I want more, I want my business to double, I want my business to triple. Start generally starts with something like that. Where it goes from there, the first question I would ask myself is, what are things in my business that inherently, if you really take a look at yourself in the mirror and you say, what are some things in my business that I know I can do better? Step one, make a list of that. And then here's a very provocative question I would ask myself. And I teach this when I mentor people. I start them out this way. Define for me the leader I would wish to be led by. Let me repeat that. Define for me the leader I wish to be led by. Here's why that's important. If you start making a list of the attributes of a leader you would follow to like the end of the earth, what are they like? How do they talk? What do they spend money on? What kind of husband are they? What kind of father are they? What kind of friend are they? What kind of person are they when they manage a process and they work with people? When they have a big team of people, how do they behave? How would they react to failures? How would they react to mistakes? How would they react to pushing people to do more, be more? What kinds of things would they drive? What would they wear? Would they show up looking schlocky or would they show up looking professional? How would they treat customers? If a customer called in, they had a customer complaint, how would they handle that? Would they immediately make the customer wrong? Or would they immediately make the employee wrong? Or would they take responsibility? Would they say, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'm going to do it this way for you. And then they would go teach, not scold, teach the employee this scenario. So it's really interesting when you make a list of the attributes, and I'm talking like, notice I just ripped off like 20 specifics, right? If you make a list of the attributes in specific, of the leader you would want to follow, who define the leader you would wish to be led by, you'd be amazed at what you would find out about yourself that you're not doing, but yet you'd want to be led by that person. And so you can quickly make changes very quickly. And notice all of this, I didn't say go spend money on a course. I didn't say go to one of those big inspirational sessions, which those are great. I didn't say to spend more time in church. I didn't say to spend more time in prayer. I didn't say spend more time in meditation. All of those are for sure things I would do, but this doesn't cost any money.
Right.
This just takes effort. It just takes a structure. It just takes a question a very provocative question to ask yourself and then do the work. Define for me, this you asking yourself, define for me the attributes in specifics of the leader I would wish to be led by. You'd be amazed at what you come up with.
Yeah, I had to take a quick break and write that down real quick. Like I am going to transcribe this because there's so many nuggets that you're dropping, but sometimes something's so profound, you don't want to wait till it's transcribed. You just got to type that down. And I like that, right? It does start to get into, well, not only, you kind of start to envision who you would want to be, even though you're describing someone else. And then like you said, you can start to fill in those gaps. Wow. I didn't realize like how much I want to be led by somebody who is charismatic and talks with people like he cares. Maybe I should start to be a little bit more charismatic and talk to people like I care, right? You start to
and so here's why that piece is so important, Tavious. If you come up with a list and there's like 15 or 20 things or 30 things on that list that you need to change about yourself right today, I promise you the people on your team are wishing you would be that person. They go home at night going, you know what? I really wish they would be more like that. And then you just start to make those little shifts and you watch how your team rallies. It is unbelievable.
Yep. Taking those shifts day by day, one at a time, and starting to make those. That is just like, that's awesome. Like it's just even from a start point, because I did give you a broader question on purpose. I wanted to see what would happen. But even those were tangible steps. And what about the person who maybe is running successful business, maybe a second and a third, but they're starting to feel more of that like imposter syndrome where it's like, man, do I even deserve to have this success? There's other people who have worked harder, done it longer, and they're starting to kind of doubt. And that could seep into your different businesses. What would you say about them when their mindset in that same kind of category?
Okay. Great question. Imposter syndrome comes from a personal self-worth around a certain level. So let's say the most you've ever made in 1 year is $500,000. If that's the most you've ever made in 1 year, and let's say you want to make $2 million, and that requires you to be more, change certain things in your business, or gain a knowledge base, or just simply do more of what you're doing, or even more simply, just start believing that you are worthy of making that kind of money. That breaks through a ceiling. Imposter syndrome, this is a little bit not obvious. So I'm going to like unpack some things here.
I like it. Let's do it.
If you don't think you belong, the one thing that you're doing is you're looking for acceptance externally from you.
Yeah.
Because now you can't just waltz into an operating room and say, "Hey, I'm going to operate today." Like, I would definitely not be trained to operate on anybody. So in certain situations like that, yeah, you've got to go back and do some schooling. You've got to do some internships. You got to like get ready to become a surgeon, right?
Right.
Or an attorney, right? However, if you're walking into a situation where you're like, you know what, all these other companies out there are doing so much better than me. Who am I to like think that I could be on that level with them? Okay.
Right.
Well, first things first, they're in your industry. If you've made $1 in the same industry that they've been in, then you deserve to be there. The way that I go about abolishing imposter syndrome is number one, believe in yourself. Here is a tangible thing that flips the script off you and puts it on the industry or the environment. And so all you have to do is just participate in it. Tavious, if I always think about how am I better, how am I giving better service, or how am I bettering the experience of the person I'm serving? It takes the imposter syndrome off of you, and it looks at ways that you can improve your business to service the industry you're serving. Then you go back and you take an inventory. So if you're taking from an environment, chances are you're going to feel less worthy of it. If you're giving to an environment, chances are you're going to feel more worthy. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. If somebody gave you $5,000 today with like, or 10,000, here's $10,000, Tavious. Here,
Mhm.
have it. And you did nothing for it. Your first inclination would be like, damn, all right, what I do? Like, okay, cool. Your second inclination is going to be like, wait a minute, what's the catch?
Yes.
Right? Now let's converse that. Let's say you fell into a bunch of money, just lottery. You and I had a great discussion about something, and you're like, Dan, here's $10,000. Giving that money versus receiving that money, there is a difference in feeling. Would you agree?
Yes.
If you're giving the money, you're in control of giving the money. Yes? If you're receiving the money, you're in control of receiving the money, but it feels different. What's the catch? Why is he giving me this? Right? That's our natural instinct. If you are a giver in situations, you are not the imposter. You're the giver.
Mm,
If you're the receiver or you're taking from something, like I'm looking for approval, there's no way my competitors, I would ever be as good as them. I'm looking for approval external from myself. You know what? Go find a way to innovate the industry. Put your head down. Don't think about what they've done. Think about what you've done. And now you're giving to the industry. How can I better service my customers? What can I do more for my customers than my competitors do for my customers? You're giving to
right.
your industry. You're giving to your customers. You will be amazed if you do that and you stack that up over a period of time and then lift your head up, you won't feel as much like an imposter anymore. You know what? You'll have captured a lot of market share against your competitors, and you'll look at yourself in the mirror and you'll say, you know what? I belong here because I block, I tackle, I focus on my customer base. I focus on how can I help my employees be better. I focus on how I can be better. And through all of that gains confidence, and with confidence gains less of an imposter syndrome. It's just that simple.
Wow. Wow. I didn't put it in that perspective. You hear the imposter syndrome all the time, and people just like, hey, it's natural, it's normal. You just gotta, understand it. But I think there is that, right? I do feel like the biggest moments of even my own personal imposter syndrome come from when I'm getting so many things and I'm like, wow, like, yeah, I put in work, but do I deserve it? But I always feel better. I always feel like I'm, in my peak form when I'm just giving. I'm like, you know what? I had a great conversation with the bro. He didn't pay me anything, but I helped him. And he comes back and he's like, thank you, Tavious. Thank you so much for that conversation. I appreciate it. I feel way better. I feel like, yeah, see, I do deserve to be here. I helped them out and their life has changed. You're right. And to put it in that context, it's like, okay, well, what more can I do? It does become an outward thing. And when people keep receiving it from you, it shows that you deserve to be here.
Mhm.
And that's, again, a testament to the value that you are talking about, right? You're always providing value in the spaces that you're in. And that kind of moves into this, like, who is Dan outside of business? Because the Dan that's in business is like, it's awesome to chat with. I hope people listening get a chance to just talk with you for 10, 15 minutes, or, if you're out speaking, just hop in and listen to him. But who is Dan outside of business then? Because Dan in business is the man, but like
Yeah, I
outside of
appreciate that.
that, who are you outside of that?
You'd be kind of, you'd be shocked, but like, I'm pretty much the same guy, whether I'm at home or whether I'm in the office. I might be a little more relaxed. Like you'll see me on the weekend in a hoodie. You'll see me during the week in very much a button down or a jacket or something like that. I tend to laugh a little bit more if I'm not in a business environment. Although I don't know, my calls, my team calls, I'm always cracking jokes. I'm always poking fun. I love it when people poke fun at me. I'm a health freak. I eat very organic foods and no seed oils, and I spend a lot of time in the gym. I meditate a lot. But in terms of like, I view my businesses as my children, and I view my children as my children. So I treat it very similarly. And men are supposed to be givers and women are supposed to be takers. I'm not going to get into the anatomy of it all, but if you actually think about the anatomy of it, you'll understand very quickly at the root of all of it why I say that.
Yep.
But so I'm typically the same person in office and out of office.
Yeah. How, you're talking about like how you are in business, out of business, they kind of go together. Is that how you achieve a good optimal work-life balance, or is there something else that kind of adds in to keep that balance?
Work-life balance, a very interesting topic. I'm going to tell you, I don't believe in it.
Ooh.
I know.
I want to know that. Now I got to hear that. What do you mean you don't believe in it?
I'm controversial on that. So let me ask you something. What is a hobby of yours? What do you like to do in your spare time?
I would say a hobby is something that
No, like you
could
personally,
do.
what is something you personally like to do, Tavious?
So eat different foods. Me and the missus love going to new restaurants, trying new things that are weird, wild. We just love that. Playing video games and binge watching like TV shows or anime is like what I like to do. Those are my kind of like my hobbies, is eating good food, playing some games, and watching, some good shows. That's kind of like my hobbies.
All right. So I'm going to talk about mindset. Let's say you could make multiple six figures a year playing a video game, testing out new restaurants, putting chefs to task. How many hours a day would you want to be doing that?
8, 10?
Yeah. 8, 10, 12. If it was an occasional 16, you would not be exhausted from that. You'd be invigorated. Would you agree?
Yeah. I would.
All right. So my work are things I love doing. My passions are things I love doing. They all blend together at some point. If you are finding that you've got to cut it off at 5 p.m. every day and then you can go experience life, you're missing it. Life's going right by you. If you're in a role in a business and you can find joy in whatever it is you are, if you are taking out trash, if you are talking to the President of the United States, if you are teaching children, if you are cutting lawns, if you are cooking food, if you are selling software, if you are an appointment setter for a salesperson, if you decide those are things that I'm going to love doing because that's what I'm in here doing, and the minute you stop loving it, you'll find something else to love. Therefore, your need for work-life balance, work is just an extension of your life. It's just an extension of things you do. And when it's time to move on to something else, like meditate or eat food out with the missus or play a video game, what's to say you couldn't play 30 minutes of a video game at 10:30 in the morning? Why? Because you're held to a responsibility at work?
Right.
Yeah, but what if you just played that video game for 30 minutes? This is what I teach my people. If you have a passion that you love, incorporate it into your day. It's small micro amounts. Therefore, I'll get the best effort of you, maybe even a little longer than your day. But now if you took a 30-minute break and you played whatever John Madden football, whatever video game you love playing for 30 minutes, and then you had a 3-hour sprint of some hardcore business, you'd feel way better about doing that sprint than doing the sprint to then get to the video game. So work is just an extension of you. It's the other thing is like, I teach people in our organization, end your calls 5 minutes before the hour. Have a 55-minute call. Take 3 minutes, do a bio break. Take 3 minutes, go for a walk. Take 1 minute, close your eyes and meditate. Just do nothing for 1 minute. It will better prepare you going into the next call, I promise. And it's amazing how long a minute feels being quiet. just praying or being with yourself or being quiet, you'd be amazed at how long that feels. But you'd also be amazed at how energizing and how cleared you are to move into the next conversation. If you are not cleared to go into the next conversation, you cannot serve the next conversation. The person who you're having a conversation with is going to get less of you than they would have if you would have just taken that minute. Now, as an owner in a business, if I got 60 people all taking 60 minutes, an hour to be more prepared and more cleared for the next thing or the next task that they have to do,
Yeah.
I promise you, I'm going to 10x my production than I would if I didn't.
Right.
So work-life balance, Tavious, is like a mindset. It's what you end up doing. Find things you love and what you do, and it becomes an extension of you. And therefore the need for balance is less.
Right. I love that. Uh, it's it makes sense, right? Because you do get so many people who are like, I'll sit in my car when I get home for 20, 30 minutes so I can literally digress my brain to separate work from home. And then you even have some people like, I have a rule when I get home, no work talk. And it's like, that does seem like a part of the extremes, but it's what people do. But you're like, in essence, like if you start to move towards the things you love, or even find little micro things that you love and incorporate it in your job, now everything starts to flow easier. You're able to go from work to home in a more seamless way that doesn't feel so rigid and hard and like, this sucks, but this is, my family's great. And now I got to spend half of my life, quote unquote, of the day either sleep or something I don't like, versus being able to have the congruency with it all. Yeah, it may not be great all the time, every day, but there's still better nuance on your day to day versus I'm gonna spend 8 hours just doing something for a paycheck and then move into my rest of my life.
All right, I'm gonna do something a little off script for you. Okay, is that all right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna talk about the recipe why I have tripled revenue in 3 years, 3 different times.
Let's do it.
Do you think that would be valuable for people listening to understand?
That would be insanely valuable. I love it.
Okay. All right. Most people think better people, longer hours, market conditions, better product, financing to grow my business. All of those things, sure, like they're relevant. I will tell you that in all 3 instances, the reason why we tripled we grew revenue so fast in all 3 instances are, number one, we paid very close attention to our people. How do they feel coming to work every day? Do they feel like they have leadership that is working with them, or do they feel like they have leadership that they're just working for? And I think that when you have an organization, and this is one concept that we absolutely 100% we instill in everybody on our teams. We talked a little bit about this before. The first thing is, if you want more, you got to be more. I didn't say do more. You got to be more. If you want more, like really want more. Desire the craziness out of wanting more. But you got to be more, which means you have to expand your knowledge base. You have to expand your ability to love what you do. You have to expand your willingness to work. You have to expand a lot of things about you. If you want more, be more. And here's the most important thing in that scenario, in that one little thing. When the group of people that is working with you is more about the individual and their success and what they're going through, and when the individual is more about the group and the missions and the goals of the group, you will win 100% of the time. Now let's unpack that for a sec. What that means is check your ego at the door. So if somebody on the team is having a really bad day, how many people are going to rally around that individual and support them and help them in their job? If we instill that as leaders, because we do it ourselves, if we care more about how are our employees working, how are our customers benefiting from the work we do? If we care more about that group of things, then they will care more about the mission and vision that we have for our company. It works hand in hand. So we get everybody thinking that from a cultural perspective, like everybody really focused on that.
Right.
Improvement of systems. Have an operating system for your business. We happen to use EOS. It's just an operating system. It sets very clear weekly goals, monthly or weekly tasks, monthly goals, and quarterly goals to go get. Then we have a 1, 3, 5 year, and 10-year goal. And we have rocks and these big objectives to hit every quarter. And we implement a system so that we can keep track of everything. Remember, micromanage process. Work with your people to have success in that process. So when people have a process and they're not feeling like you've got some foot on their forehead, but you're uplifting them in that environment, but then they know what they got to do. And everybody has a responsibility in the business, everybody, but it feels like we're all rowing in the same direction. We just crush our goals. We just crush them. We don't set goals that are completely unattainable. We have some stretch stuff, sure. But when you break it down on a very, very basic, very, very minute basis like that, the business is being micromanaged, not the people. And the people are micromanaging their own processes. When you can reach that, that's nirvana in a business. And people forget that you got to spend time in your business. Most people spend time in there. You ever heard this thing? Don't spend time in your business, spend time on your business.
They say it all the time. Like,
All
hey,
the
you're
time.
working in your business. You need to be working on your business. That's why you delegate.
Right. Okay. So there's truth in that. But reality is working on your business is working the right way in your business.
Mm,
That's just a slight difference in thought there. If you work really well in your business with the people in your business, they will rally around you. So you now can think about vision, strategy, long-term goals, financing, all those other things that you don't get a chance to do, but all because you've worked really effectively in your business. So I think that if you pay very close attention to those core concepts, overgive to your customers, overservice them, build a brand where they can trust, they know you're there for them. If your customer base knows you're there for them, they know it. They will come back and back and back and back. You know what else they're going to do? They're going to tell all their friends, all their family, all their relatives, go see your business. That's going to give you a competitive advantage inherently against all your competitors. Then if you take that same approach with your employees, you have an army of people. Matter of fact, if you do all the things that I just said to do inside the business, you do all of them. Everything from like define the leader you wish to be led by, to connect, contribute, continue, which we'll get into that in another time. If you have the group about the individual, individual about the group, you do all these things inside your business. You manage alongside your business, you inside your employees, not on your employees. You micromanage process, but you work with your people. If you do all of those things, what you're going to find is that you are going to have an army, what feels like an army of people working towards a common goal. And you look up one day and you'd be like, you know what? 25 people did the work of 500. Because if I have the right attitude in my business, if I have the right intention in my business, if I have the right culture in my business, I will outperform 500 people with 25. They'll work harder. We all will. Our customers will love us more.
yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's it. That's where I want to end it. That is one of those parts where it's like, that's the nugget. You know what I mean? I got to record a whole different intro just to be like, y'all got to stick to the end to get this nugget because it's that good. That's where I want to end it. I think that is awesome because what you're saying is basically, as you change yourself, your business change, your ideals change. But when that changes, what happens is the surroundings, whether it is from your personal life and your kids are more motivated, your family's more motivated, but your people on your job, there are people that are working with you, rally behind you, which means you're getting the extra percentage from them every day that everyone else isn't getting. That extra 1% from 25 people every day at the end of the year, that's 395% better that a lot of people aren't doing. Over 25 people, you're right. That's the kind of person, that's the kind of team that is going to outperform someone who's like, I got to stick more people in because I'm not getting enough out of them because they're just, and I love that, man. If more people, because, I'm stuck to you. You've gotten me now, so I'm always be around, peeping in and asking what you're doing. But if other people want to get in touch with you, if they want to work with you, or just even be able to see the insights like I have, how can they get in touch with you?
Email me, Dan at bluemotomedia.com. You can certainly hit me up on LinkedIn. I think it's Dan Austin 219. Or maybe it's just Dan Austin. I think it's just Dan Austin in LinkedIn. And I'll just finish with this. Number one, Tavious, kudos to what you're doing. Everything that I believe in, this is why I agree to come on your podcast. Everything that I do revolves around how can I better service my customer? How can I better service somebody? The fact that you're bringing on experienced executives or leaders in their industries, not for any benefit, you didn't ask me for any business. You didn't ask me, can we be your payment processor? You're doing this to helpfully give some benefit to the people that you wish to service later as an added value. I can't tell you, Tavious, that's a great idea. I think that you're going to be successful in everything that you do. I think that you're a sponge, which is awesome. Suck the marrow out of life, learn it from everybody you can, and you're going to be successful. And if there's one thing that I would hope and I assume that the people listening to this are mostly business owners, but if there's one thing I can suggest that would help change the trajectory of your business for the foreseeable future, it's remember, make a list of the attributes of the leader you wish to be led by. I promise you that is going to impact your organization in ways that are so profound. Not only will your revenue grow, but they will love being at their place of business with you even more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, definitely do it. I'm going to do that too now. And then after you do it, I would say post about how you learned this from Dan. And, if you have content, that's extra content. I think I'm going to post it. I think everyone should do it. I think everyone should be able to do that. So after I do it, I'm going to let everyone know what they should do. The same thing, because I don't care if you're from who you are to Elon Musk, everyone can write that down to really figure out what's the next level of who you are and what you do. So Dan, thank you so much again. I really, really appreciate this. Definitely going to have to do this again. You are awesome. If there's anything that I can do to help you, please let me know, but you have been amazing, man. Thank you so
Mm.
much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right. Have a good one.